Hi, podcast listeners. This is your host, Jenna Pecor, and I'm so excited to bring you our episode for today. If you are a first-time listener or a listener who has been with me since day one and you love what I'm doing, I want to encourage you to support the podcast by giving a small donation. I love bringing you new faces and interviews, but it does take time and resources to do it. And any support you'd be willing to give goes towards website upkeep, travel, time, and costs, and would help me greatly to keep doing what I'm doing. Give your support by going to paypal.me/Faces of Grand Prairie. Today, my guest is managing partner of the Texas Roadhouse in Grand Prairie, Mr. Mike Medrano. Mike has been the managing partner of the Grand Prairie Roadhouse for the past 19 years. As a side note, he was the first person to give me my first grown-up job with a salary when he promoted me from server to service manager of the Grand Prairie location in 2002. Mike and I go back a long time, so when I saw that Grand Prairie was getting a brand new and improved Texas Roadhouse building, I just had to come over and say hello. Mike talks to me about how he came to work at Texas Roadhouse, the culture of the restaurant, why it was important to get a new building at all, and why he's still going strong after a over 40-year career in the restaurant industry. I will tell you that right around the 20-minute mark, his microphone does fall off and his voice does get a bit hard to hear for about a minute, but we caught it pretty quick, and I left the audio in because you can still hear part of the story he was telling. So without further ado, here's my friend, Mike Medrano. So, good morning. I am here at the brand new Texas Roadhouse in Grand Prairie, and it is early morning. They're not open yet. Darn, because I could have had a steak, but it's a little early for that. But I am here with managing partner Mike Medrano. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Jenna.
How are you?
I am tired.
We both have our coffee.
Yes.
Because you opened last night.
Yes, we did. I'm, like I said, I'm tired. I'm, thoroughly exhausted, but at the same time, extremely excited. It's been quite a great experience. This is the first roadhouse that I opened up for myself. Mm-hmm. So that's been very exciting. And I think you said something about why did we do it? Why did we open up the second Grand Prairie? Mm-hmm. Am I getting into that too soon? You're getting into that too soon because okay, I want to tell people how we know each other because you probably would only meet me on a Thursday morning at 8:30. For me, because you love me so much, and I know that you do. Without a doubt. Yeah, I was actually your service manager at Roadhouse, and when I was, 22, something like that. Yeah. I'd been waiting tables here, and I did not open this location. I came 2 weeks after, because of my birthday. I wasn't 18 until 2 weeks after the location opened. I did not know that. Yeah, so I was technically not one of the original openers. Yeah. But you gave me my first salaried job as a service manager at this restaurant. Yeah, so that's funny. You and I go back a long way. Yeah. So, and you kind of mentioned, so before you came to Roadhouse, because you've been with Roadhouse for a long time, but before you came to Roadhouse, what was your experience in the restaurant industry? Oh, man. At that time, I'd been in the business for about 20 years. I had, just gone up through the ranks. My very first restaurant job, I'm a Fiji. I'm in a fraternity. Mm-hmm. And I forgot about that. Yeah, no, Phi Gamma Delta, I was looking for a job, and I remember walking into the fraternity house, and I was like desperate for a job, and I was like, the epitome of starving college student, right. College. Which college? College. Well, at that time it was UTA. UTA. Yes. Yeah. Okay. And I was, I ran into the fraternity house, and I'm like, okay, I need a job. And I just threw my hands up. Okay, I need a job. I don't care what it is. So, one of my friends, Mike Mannion, we had played football together, and we had we were both Fijis, and he's like, hey, Chili, because my nickname is Chili. Mm-hmm. He said the Cork and Cleaver is hiring. It used to be in Arlington, over by the Forum Mall, over right across from the JCPenney Auto Center, and really, yeah. Oh man, I think people forget that is Arlington. It's because it's Forum, the mall right over off 303 and 360. Yeah. It's just so close to the Grand Prairie line, but the Cork and Cleaver, interesting. I didn't know that. And that was my first restaurant job, and it's funny, I started with steaks, and I'm probably, going to end with steaks, because, so anyway, I was with the Cork and I worked my way up, basically from dish and salad to, to kitchen manager, when I left, and, just kind of worked my way up the ranks, and been in the restaurant business forever, and, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I went from, the Cork and Cleaver. I've worked for, the Black Eyed Pea. I've worked for On the Border back when it was privately owned. And then before hey, what's up? And then immediately before here, I was at TGI Fridays. And, ironically, the employees from the Texas Roadhouse used to come into my Fridays. And that's how I was introduced to Texas Roadhouse.
Were you over at Cooper?
I was on South Cooper. Yeah, I was the general manager there. And I remember they would come in there, Michael Bryan, Brian Sullivan, Jennifer Shargy. Some of the guys would go in there, Danny.
I was probably in there from time to time.
Probably.
I don't remember going into that Fridays very often, though.
Yeah, well, by the time they got there, they probably didn't remember much either.
Those were crazy days back then.
Yeah, but they would come in there, and normally they would come in there pretty much on Thursdays because as I've always done, I always like working the hard days, the busy days, because that's how you drive your business, I believe. And so Thursday nights, I would always close Thursday nights, and Thursday nights they would come in there, and I got to know them really well and talk to them, and got when they were looking for a managing partner for the Texas Roadhouse, they introduced me to, that idea. Mike, you really got to come. You really got to apply. It's a great company and, all this stuff. And no, I'm at Fridays. I love the company and whatever. So I never really pursued it. But finally, on a sad note, my mom passed away, and she always told me, Mike, you need to do your own thing. You got to go do your own deal. And, I felt like, that was something that I had to do to honor my mom. So I started looking for restaurants. I started looking for managing partner positions, ownership positions. And, so when I, finally decided that this is what I want to do, I started thinking about the employees. So I got on the internet, which was back then, it was brand new,
right?
Fumbling through the keyboard because I still don't type to the day. I'm like a one-finger typer.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, buddy. Just like everybody else. Ronnie Kallmeyer, my kitchen manager, always giving me a hard time about, you're a pecker.
Peck. Yep, exactly.
I'm like, what does that mean, Ronnie? I don't understand what that means. But so I got on the internet. I'm of course, again, it was brand new, so I didn't really know what I was doing or what I was looking for or whatever. And somehow, I believe it was God, and the help from my mom, sent me to this crazy website for jobs. And I'm like, okay, cool. The Texas Roadhouse popped up for a managing partner.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, sign from God, and I applied, and gosh, it was months before I heard anything from them.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, literally months. And
because was this the only one in the Metroplex at the time that you applied?
It was the only one in the Metroplex at the time. No, Mesquite was open.
Mesquite, okay.
Yeah, but it was like one of 6 in the state.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I think Abilene was open.
I just opened Lubbock.
No, Lubbock came after us.
Oh, Lubbock came after us.
We trained the team, remember?
Oh, that's right.
Gary Danhoff and those
right.
guys. Yeah. But Lubbock was open. I mean, Waco was open. Abilene was open. Mesquite, Grand Prairie, Live Oak. I think that's it.
That might be it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Because we're talking about 2001, 2002.
Yeah, 2001 when I started with the company.
Right.
But so I applied, and it was like, definitely it was at least a month, 2, before I got a call back, and it was, real. It was Jerry Morgan, who is now the regional, who was the original managing partner for the Grand Prairie location, and he's like, hey, just reaching out, just kind of, the Jerry Morgan fashion, kind of a blow off thing, and You know, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. You know what? That's not where God meant for me to be. So, you know, I continued looking, and I was down to the wire with Bahama Breeze, and I was down to, you know, just the basically signing my contract with Bahama Breeze, and then Jerry called me back, and he's like, hey, just so you'll know, he said something came up, and I'm looking for a managing partner for Grand Prairie. He said, I'd really like to, you know, to get to talk to you. And I was sitting there, you know, thinking to myself, you know, I don't know, that's just something that I really want to do because of how it ended the first time, our conversation, you know, but, you know me, and, you know, so I prayed on it, and I talked to my wife about it because I was bouncing everything off my wife.
The wonderful Renee, whom I love so much.
My beautiful woman. And, you know, she's like, you know what, give it a try. You know, there's a reason why, you know, this happened. I'm like, okay, cool. So called Jerry back. I'm like, hey, you know, sure, let's go meet and whatever. And we did. He goes, actually, that's not true. He said, look, before we meet, I need for you to try the food, because you try the food, you're going to get hooked, you know. I'm like, okay, cool, you know. And
so you'd never even been inside the Roadhouse?
I didn't know what a Texas Roadhouse was. I mean, because like you mentioned, there was only like 2 in the state.
Right,
I mean, 2 in the Metroplex, and I'd never eaten at Texas Roadhouse, you know.
And you were in the restaurant business, so it's not much like you could go out on a Friday night and go eat somewhere,
Friday
right?
night, you know. Frankly, when I came out to try the food, it was on like a Tuesday or something like that. It was a weird day, you know. And you know, so I told Renee, and she's like, you know, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, you know, because I'm really tired. And she goes, you know, Mike, it's a free meal. You know, my wife,
good call.
You know, I mean, you know, by the grace of God, we have a great income, and you know, she's always, you know, well, this, you know, well, I don't buy anything that's not on sale, and whatever. She's always been like that. But I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. You know, I'll meet you there. You know, so she grabbed my daughter Chessie, and we ate. That's when I met Jason Bolton, who is the managing partner now in the Houston area. And had dinner, you know, saw the employees that I already knew, and they all came up, and that was fine and fun and whatever, but Jerry wasn't there.
Oh.
No, he wasn't there. And I'm like, okay, cool, you know, so this guy's
Did you tell him you were coming and he just never came in?
No. Yeah, you bring up a good point. Yeah. I didn't tell him I was coming.
Okay,
you know?
okay.
So, yeah, you brought up a good point. But, you know, so I ate, and I'm leaving, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, that was nice, but, you know, it wasn't what I was looking for. You know, I wanted something a little bit, you know, kind of like Fridays, you know, kind of calm.
Yeah.
You know.
You're not going to find that here.
This thing was like loud. The music was loud. You know.
People are probably dancing.
People are dancing, you know, line dancing and whatever. And I mean, there was just.
And you're bombarded with all the servers who are
everybody
all
coming
outgoing.
up. Oh my God, you know. And there's that, you know. So I was like, yeah, you know, this is a little too rock and roll-y.
Oh yeah.
For me, too country for me.
You had the jukebox at the time.
Oh man, it was still do.
With actual CDs.
Oh yeah, no man, I'm telling you. So we left, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I don't know. This is really something that I want to do. So a couple of days later, I don't really remember how many days, Jerry called me back. He's like, Mike, you know, what'd you think? And I'm like, oh yeah, it was great, Jerry. You know, and he goes, well, we got to meet. And, you know, to condense it, because I know that you've got a time frame.
No, you're fine.
We had 7 interviews. 7 interviews.
You had 7 interviews.
It was me and Jerry. It was me and Steve Ortiz. It was me and Jerry and his son, Jacob. It was going to breakfast. It was, you know, going to lunch. It was him dropping in with his son, and you know, kind of sneaking on me and spying on me at my restaurant. It was him talking to my employees, and you know, I mean, he was really doing his due diligence. I mean, he really wanted to make sure that I was what he wanted for his employees.
Right.
You know, because just like me now, where I just, you know, love and value my employees.
Right.
He was the same way.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that's the culture. I mean, you know the culture of Texas Roadhouse. I mean, you value your employees, and you know, kind of there's that. You know, Glassdoor Employee of the Year in 2018, I think it was, something like that. You know, so yeah, I mean, you know, that's what we do. So, you know, finally, I think that the clincher was when we were talking and something, and we were in an interview. And I told him, I'm like, Jerry, I kind of have to go because I was a PTA president
Because Jessie was how old at the time?
She was 6th grade, 10.
Was she 10?
She was 10.
She wasn't younger than that?
She was 10.
Why do I remember her being littler? Maybe because Jacob was littler.
Jacob was very young. Yeah, but I was PTA president, and I told him I have this PTA meeting I have to go to. I think that's what clinched it. My community involvement, just the fact that I was involved in something other than just being a workaholic.
Right,
which
exactly.
Texas Roadhouse, we are all workaholics. So
just a tad.
A lot, So he's like, yeah. So I went to my meeting or whatever, and then I think that's what clinched it, because the meeting that I went to was to figure out the installation of the new PTA president, because I was on the way out. So I remember he called me on the day of the installation for the new PTA president. I was the outgoing. And he's like, hey, Mike, I want to talk to you about a career with Texas Roadhouse. And, man, I was like on the wire. I'm like, Jerry, man, I got this installation. I have to go. I'm so sorry. Please let me call you back. Yeah, go ahead. And I'm going to sit there going, oh, my God. So I go to my deal, and I'm like, okay, eating real fast. Okay, cool. Yeah, congratulations. Okay, got to go, And, so I left, and, of course, this was back before technology is what it is now.
Yep.
Cell phones, didn't have one.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I didn't have, who had them? I mean, only, rich people had cell phones back then, So I didn't have a cell phone, so I'm like running home as fast as I can, and I get home, I dial the numbers like this, because kind of
he's pecking with his fingers right now.
Pecking the phone, thank God no rotary. I'd have died. But I'm on the phone, and Jerry answers, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm back. What's up? And he goes, so, do you have your investment money? And I'm like, yes. Which I didn't. I'm like, I was so far from it. I think I had like $1 in my account or something like that. I'm like, no, man. Yeah, I'm like, yes, absolutely. I'm sitting there going, okay, how am I going to get my money together? And he's like, okay. He goes, I would like to offer you a career with Texas Roadhouse. And I'm like, okay. And that's all I remember saying, okay, and he said something, don't know what he said. I'm like, do this, I'm like, just in a trance. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Because, you're investing money,
right,
to go work for this company. You're paying to go work for this company.
Right.
What in the world, because you have to pay your investment. I mean, that's why you're an owner, because you invest money in.
You're not a general manager. You're a managing partner for a reason, because you do come in and you have to bring an investment of money to be able to run a Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Well, in most of them, I know that they're not all set up exactly the same way, but we'll talk about that.
It's changed, over the course. I mean, for crying out loud, I've been almost 19 years with the company. It's changed a lot,
right? Right.
But I remember. Again, like I said, he was saying something. I don't even remember what he said. All I remembered was the 21st. So I'm like, okay, cool. I guess I'm starting on the 21st. That's kind of all I really remembered. And I remember hanging up the phone with him and just kind of like sitting there. What do I do now? And so I called my wife.
Of course.
Renee, you're not going to believe this, And she's like, oh my God, freaking out. Oh my God. So I called a few of my buddies, to celebrate. And I remember we went to this one restaurant, and we're celebrating, and, tell me that there wasn't a tornado coming down 820 heading towards the Texas Roadhouse. Yeah, it was that day.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the weather was just terrible. And there was like tornadoes here, tornadoes there. They were just all over the place. My wife was freaking out. Oh my God, Mike, they're going to take our restaurant. And I'm like...
Was this before or after you paid your investment?
This was before my investment. Yes, no, this was before the money, But at the same time, too, I mean, it's like dangling a carrot, and then it's like,
right.
Psych, take it away, and it's not.
Was this when
anymore.
The tornado touched down on I-20?
It was bouncing everywhere.
Yeah. And then it destroyed downtown Fort Worth.
Yeah, Fort Worth. Yeah, because I had a friend of mine that's had a condo down there, and his condo ended up in Waxahachie somewhere.
Right.
But so I the weather cleared and God was good, and I'm the next day I remember Jerry said, how
how soon can you start? Can you start on the 21st? And I said, yes, sir. Don't even know what day that was. You know, I don't know. Was it 2 weeks? I don't remember. You know, but I remember I went to my supervisor at Fridays, and I handed him my resignation letter, and he was in a meeting with the area kitchen manager. He stopped the meeting, you know, and he's like, what is this? You know, and I'm like, I think you know what it is. And he's like, we need to talk. And I'm like, okay, cool, but not right now. You're in a meeting. And he gets like, meeting is adjourned. You know? And I'm like, okay, cool. You know? So he's like, what's going on? And I told him. And he's like, okay. And I left. And then, you know, I was very humbled. Because I'm a pretty humble kind of guy, believe it or not. I know you couldn't tell it by this time, but I'm a real humble kind of guy.
You are, yeah.
You know? And the attention that I got, I had, you know, the vice presidents coming down. I had, you know, vice president of the HR, you know, regional managers. I've had managers that I had worked with before calling me and saying, Mike, you need to stay. You know, Mike, we want you to stay, pick your store, you know, whatever. But I had made a commitment to Texas Roadhouse, you know. So I'm that guy. I give you my word, I'm going to do it, you know. I mean, kind of like here today. I love you, kid, but I wouldn't have done this for anybody else.
No, you would not have. No, you would not have.
You know? But then, so, you know, I went through my 2 weeks, and my employees at the Fridays, you know, had a little going away party for me. Yes, I cried. You know, because I love my people, and leaving them was really difficult to do. Albeit I knew that I was going to have a big family here, a bigger family here.
Yeah.
And I left over there and came over here, and it's been probably the second best decision I ever made in my life. The first one, of course, being my wife.
Right.
You know, and you know, it's not always been good. You know, it's had some trials and tribulations. You know, that's life, right?
Of course.
You know, and you know, I've just been very blessed that you know, I've had some great people working for me, working with me. You know, had some.
That just happened because I've been looking. There you go.
Sorry, buddy. You know, like my managers, you know, I mean, I've always been able to count on my managers, and, you know, the hourly employees, I mean, I've always, you know, looked at them as, you know, obviously the younger I was, the more I looked at them as, you know, peers, and then the older I got, the more I looked at them as kids, and then now I'm looking at them at grandkids, because, you know, at my age, 61, you know, yeah, they're grandkids' age now. You know?
On December 31st, I just helped Rachel Estrada's daughter her and her husband buy a house.
Shut up.
No.
And that's awesome.
I know. She used to come and sweep my section when she was little.
Yeah.
And I just helped her buy a house. It was crazy.
Yeah. I remember Erica and Gabby. Gabby's, the broom was bigger than her.
Yep.
You know,
Erica.
Today's nonprofit spotlight is on the Grand Prairie Police Department. While they're actually a nonprofit organization all on their own, the GPPD offers a variety of help to the community from groups from within their own organization. One of these amazing groups is the Crisis Relief Ministry. Since 1999, through a partnership between the Grand Prairie Police Department and the Grand Prairie Police Clergy Coalition, the CRM Corps of Volunteers offers one-on-one support for victims of crime, emergencies, and disasters of all kinds. Another great group is the GPPD Success Closet, which helps young adults and victims of domestic violence reach the next step in improving their quality of life by supporting job success and providing professional attire. This organization accepts donations of professional attire for both men and women and helps dress people for success for job interviews. For these and many other great groups and initiatives from the Grand Prairie Police Department, go to their website at grandprairiepolice.org. This episode is also in honor of fallen Sergeant Gregory L. Hunter, who we discussed in this episode, an officer who paid the ultimate price on June 18th, 2004, by giving his life to protect the citizens of our community. For him and all the other fallen officers in GPPD, and for the officers who work hard every day to keep us all safe, we thank you.
You know, people ask me, you know, because of my age, you know, they're like, you know, Mike, why are you trying to do this right now? You know, you should be gearing down instead of gearing up, you know, because, you know, we did well over $8 million at the store last year in 2019. You know, and this year we're looking at doing 10 million. So you go from 8 to 10, $2 million increase in a year.
Right.
People are like, you know, you need to be gearing down, not gearing up. And I'm like, you just don't know me.
No.
You know me.
I do know you.
That's not my nature.
No.
You know, I got to hit it and hit it hard.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, so the trek to get this guy was about 4 years. It took about 4 years to actually, you know, from the nut to the tree. It was really about 4 years.
Well, so one of the things I want to go back to is because first of all, Texas Roadhouse was one of the first real restaurants that Grand Prairie had when it was opened back in 1998. So we had a Chili's in 1996, and that was the big time. We thought we had hit the big time. So when Roadhouse came, there was really nothing over here. I mean, over at Great Southwest and I-20, we had a gas station, I think, and a McDonald's, but there wasn't any of this stuff.
No.
So when they came over, it was really exciting. Well, it was also not the first restaurant in Texas Roadhouse in Texas.
Right.
I mean, it was not the first Texas Roadhouse, even though it was the first Roadhouse in Texas.
Right.
So it was like 26th, right? So when and Texas Roadhouse started in malls. Like some of the first ones were actually in a mall. So when they built the Grand Prairie location, after everything progressed and we realized the kind of people that come in, the groups, the sizes, how they kind of sit and all that stuff, there were some changes that were made to the restaurants after that.
Right.
And so y'all have adapted as much as you can in that restaurant. Because when we were open, you couldn't accommodate large parties hardly at all.
Right.
There was hardly any waiting space. There was no to-go area because that wasn't even a thing at the time, really.
Right.
And so over time, y'all tried to adapt it. But since the moment that restaurant opened, the parking has been a problem ever since the day we opened that store, because this place was as busy as could be. And so I knew when I heard that y'all were getting a new restaurant, I was so excited because you need one.
Right.
This restaurant is still so crazy busy. So you started 4 years ago, and so did you present the idea and then Roadhouse had to agree? How did that work?
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is that the old location was a leasehold. Okay, we didn't own the property. We owned the building, but we didn't own the property. So if you own the building, don't own the property, you don't own much of nothing except for what's inside.
Right.
Well, here, we bought the property.
Oh,
so
great.
we own the property, we own the building, this is our guy, you know. So, you know, when I say this is my restaurant, truly, this is my restaurant. Over there, this was my building.
Right.
Over here, this is my house. You know, this is our house. This is Texas Roadhouse's house. You know, want to know the truth? This is Grand Prairie's house. You know, because honestly, without the backing and support of, you know, not only the citizens of Grand Prairie, but also the city leadership. You know, I want to talk about that a little bit later on. You know, but you know, over there, like you mentioned, you know, the parking was always an issue. You know, large parties is always an issue. You know, over here, you know, people are always telling me, you know, Mike, being that busy is a great problem to have, but it's still a problem. You know,
Yeah.
So being over here, we have 80 more parking spaces. You know, which is, you know, really close to 100. But you know what? Last night we were already, you know, people are like rolling around the parking lot.
course.
You know, and I hate to say that because people are going, oh well, you know, then I just won't go. But you know, I mean, my opinion is we could have an additional 200 parking spaces and we'd still fill it up. You know, and you know, we went on a little bit of a wait last night, even though the weather was terrible.
Yeah.
You know, that's the show of support from
On a
the
Wednesday.
city of Grand Prairie. Yeah, on a Wednesday. Just beat the dog stuffings out of every other restaurant, you know, in our market because everybody else was down because of the weather. You know, last night we were 29% up in sales from last year.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's with the weather the way it was. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, you know, but you know, I mean, like you said, you know, we had to do this. You know, it has been a 4-year journey. You know, how it started was, you know, really just talking to Jerry, you know, about, man, we got to go, you know, and he asked something about, you know, the 161 thing, because 161 at that point in time wasn't complete, and you know, they had talked about the city leadership, the economic development people had talked about, you know, hey, Mike, move to 161. But I'm real loyal, you know. You know me. I mean, I'm loyal to the end, and I was loyal to this part of town, and I was loyal to this street, and I was loyal to my partners restaurants and businesses around me. So I'm not going anywhere. This is home. I want that spot down there. And I remember telling Jerry and driving with him and going, this is the spot that I want. And we're within 100 yards of what I said I wanted.
Right.
And so I showed Jerry, and Jerry went to real estate, and real estate's like, well, who's the owner? Who knew? I didn't know. So I got them in touch with, I don't remember who the economic development, Bob O'Neill was the economic development guy at the time, and he gave them the name and whatever, and the price was too high and all the stuff, and kind of almost a year lapsed, and I remember talking to Steve Dye, the ex-police chief, Steve Dye, and telling him, we're looking to move, and at that time we were looking at a property in Arlington off of 30, and I told him this, and he's like, oh, you can't leave the city. Oh, Mike, you can't leave the city. And I remember the look on his face, and I remember the sincerity in his voice, can't leave the city. And I'm like, but we're landlocked, man, and he's like, what could keep you in the city? Steve Dye, police chief, and I'm like, we're looking at a spot over there, kind of that's too high. I said, if you can get them to kind of come down on their price, and he's like, let me see what I can do.
Because the interesting part about it is, like, this place, this area exploded, and it built all the way up into, what was that hotel? I think it's that hotel or that Care Now. And then that's it for like years. I mean, this land has been sitting here for years with nobody doing anything with it. So, yeah.
I remember when Sarah Jane, stopped at Beto's.
Yeah.
Albert and the Sanchez family's, restaurant. And, for the longest time.
Yes.
And, I remember we would park in the field.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Even before Beto's was there. I mean, Mother's Day, Father's Day.
Yes.
Everybody parks in the field.
Yeah. Actually, when they built Beto's, I remember thinking, where's everybody going to park now? Because we were trying to park at Taco Bueno. They weren't having that.
Oh, they
hated it. With good reason. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, it's their property.
And so then we're parking on the street. I mean, it's crazy. So Chief Dye, that's crazy that he...
Yeah. Okay. You talk about parking in the street. Well, then, once they expanded Sarah Jane Parkway, we couldn't park in the street anymore. So we're like, oh my God, what are we going to do?
Totally forgot that dead end right there.
So I remember, sending an email, I think it was, to the police chief or Steve Dye, or maybe I called him. I don't really remember. And I'm like, hey man, I need this. I need to be able to park in my street. And they made, I don't remember what it's called, it's some kind of exception where on those days they would cover the no parking sign so we could park in the street.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. What city does that?
Well, I actually went and I interviewed the new chief, Chief Cessny, and this was a few weeks ago, and he was one of the police officers that was, at the time, was one of the undercover officers that used to come in and eat here all the time. Okay. So police in Grand Prairie love Texas Roadhouse. They always have. And he and I actually talked about that a little bit. And so it's a great meal for affordable, and they love coming in here. They always have. So it doesn't surprise me that he was trying to help you with all that.
Well, I mean, you're talking about the police department in Grand Prairie, and really all the first responders in Grand Prairie, we give them a discount just because we we appreciate what they do. We were doing that well before anybody else was doing it. The 911 thing created this awareness for first responders, because all the first responders gave their life at 911, and I remember I was working for Roadhouse at the time, when 911 happened.
You and I both were.
Yeah, and
I trained Christina Amos that night.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
And I was nervous as a cat.
I know.
I just bought into the restaurant. I just took my proprietorship in the May, and then in September this is happening, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to the economy? Oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my investment? Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be eating beans for well, being Hispanic, it doesn't really matter, but eating beans for the rest of my life, But I do remember just being very, very particular about what was going on with my first responders and really paying attention to what they were doing or whatever, and just being in awe of their tenacity in the them doing their job, and then, a couple of years later, when, the Hunter Sykes thing happened, you know,
Walmart parking lot.
Yeah, Walmart parking lot, that shooting, you know, where, you know, Officer Hunter, you know,
we had a lunch.
killed.
We had a lunch to support that. I remember.
There was no choice in that, Jenna. We had to, you know, because they're our police department. They're our people. Those are our people, you know. So I remember, you know, that happened, and then immediately I'm like making phone calls, picking up the phone. Okay, we got to do that. We got to, you know, and I'm just rolling. And then I thought, oh crap, I need to call somebody in the company and tell them, hey, this is what I'm doing, you know, because that's the autonomy that we have, you know, and the company has always supported the community efforts, always.
Absolutely.
You know? So, you know, when I'm sitting here and, you know, I'm reaching out to the city and I'm reaching out to the chamber. I was, you know, really, really involved in the chamber at the time, and, you know, calling all these businesses, and they're, willingly just throwing, you know, this, you know, silent auction prize or this, you know, whatever. I mean, they were just like cookies from, you know, and Deb's Bakery and, you know, flowers and, you know, just stuff all over the place. Walmart, everybody was just giving stuff, you know. And I remember, you know, reaching out to Applebee's and Beto's and the area restaurants, Chili's and Cheddar's and whatever, and saying, hey, you know, this is not a Texas Roadhouse thing. This is a community thing. This was not a Texas Roadhouse policeman. This was our Grand Prairie policeman, you know. So I'm getting chills just thinking about, you know, how it all just came together just so quickly, because we, from the day that we thought about it to it actually coming to fruition, was 7 days. I mean, that was the longest 7 days of my life.
I think I was service manager at the time.
You were?
I think I was, and I remember we got all that. And so if you've never been to Roadhouse, which if you haven't, you're living under a rock in Grand Prairie, I'm sorry, but like, it doesn't open till 4. Well, it did at the time. It didn't open till 4 during the week. And so we would have lunches. Like, we had Little Lunch of Hope, Little Lunch of Horrors at the time for Children First, and that was something we did every year. So we would open at lunchtime during the day during certain weeks and provide like a limited menu. And this was one of those times we had that lunch. And I remember, you know, I do remember helping getting all that stuff together, and it was amazing. It really was. That was a really scary thing for us to have to experience, because that was literally right across the street. And then when the tragedy happened, it was so heartbreaking. But you know, you've always been a part of that, and the thing about it is that people in Grand Prairie love to eat here. So it's not just like they come to support you. I mean, the food is really good. And so kind of going back to the culture a little bit, you know, I worked here for almost 10 years, you know, in one restaurant location or another. But the culture of Roadhouse, especially at that time, was just insane. We were all so loyal. Like, we all stayed here for years and years, and it was a big deal to try to move up within Roadhouse. And so when you're telling your story about getting hired, I couldn't help but think, you had to be really special, because at that time there was a ton of people in line that would have loved to have been managing partner of Grand Prairie, but you got picked and you got hired from outside of Grand Prairie. So when you came over here, was it kind of a culture shock for you?
You know, yes and no, you know, because remember, I knew a lot of the employees. In the interview process, right? Remember, 7 interviews? One of my interviews was a working interview. I came in on a Friday night. I had just opened a shift at Fridays, and then I came over here to Roadhouse at night, and, you know, air quotes, worked a shift. But mostly I was just talking to the employees and talking to the guests, and, you know, I tried to get engaged in the kitchen because I'm a real hands-on kind of guy, and, you know, because I knew, you know, back of the house guys, I knew front of the house, you know, Chago. I knew Chago. Chago worked for me. Andres worked for me. I mean, there was folks that, you know, front end, back of the house that I knew. So, you know, really it wasn't like I was already working. I mean, my brain was already, okay, these are my people, you know, and I know Jerry saw that, you know. So the culture shock, you know, it wasn't a shock in as much as it was what I always wanted to do, you know, because, you know, other companies, and it doesn't matter which company, because I did work for a lot of them, but other companies talk about taking care of their employees, but they don't give you the resources to do it.
Right.
They don't give you the ability to do it. I mean, I worked for one company, it doesn't matter which one, that you couldn't hug your employees. Could not hug your employees. I did it anyway, you know? And I remember my area supervisor, when I would do it, he would just look the other way. Truly, you know? And he said, you know, I remember him, you know, he's like, you know, Mike, he goes, you're the only
general manager I allow to do that.
Right.
Because of how you are with your employees and how they think of you, you know. And I'm like, you know, okay, you know, beep, I'm not going to say his name, you know, okay, well, thank you, you know, I don't ever mean anything by it, I'm never disrespectful, you know. And he goes, and I understand that you're a family man, and kind of I'm a family man.
You are, and like you were always thought of as a dad figure to all of us, because you were 20-something years old, 21 years older than most of us were, and so, and to go from Jerry to you is totally different personality types as far as just certain things, but like you were always just that guy for us. And then your dad would come in to eat all the time, which we loved your dad, and then your wife would come in and Chelsea would come in, and you know, so it was always just a real family feel to working here. And so for you to say you hugged us all, I know that people don't know you, like that was, we welcomed it, like we loved coming into work every day. It was during that time, especially when you right before, but then when you came for that, you know, several years after that, was a real special time for a lot of us, because this was where we loved to be. You were proud to work at Texas Roadhouse. Everybody in the city, if you knew that you worked at Texas Roadhouse, that was a big deal. And we made great money, and we had so much fun. And so, you know, I think that when I can't remember how long I worked for you before you'd asked me to be service manager, but I remember, like, we're sitting here talking right now, and that's what I love to do, to talk.
Explains this.
I know, right?
Right.
But you always, with me, you would say, because I'm terrible at the time, especially, like I was terrible with paperwork. I was terrible. All the other parts of being a service manager, I wasn't super great at. But I was really good at talking to the guests. I was really good at getting employees excited about being here, like that kind of thing. So people would go, "Where's Jenna? Has anybody seen Jenna?" And they're like, "Oh, she's over at 334 talking to a guest again." And you're like, "Dude," this is what you say, "Dude, I know that you love to talk to people, but you can't just sit at a table and talk for an hour. Like, it's 7 o'clock on a Friday night. I need you to be up and around." But that was the kind of guy that you were. You always were trying to develop people. You were always trying to grow people into doing things, and you always took a special interest in each one of our lives. And so I know that your being here was a big deal to a lot of us. So thank you for that. This wasn't intended to be a podcast to tell you how wonderful you are, but
thank you.
But you know, like, so the Roadhouse culture is just something that I know is different, you know. And for those of you that, again, those that lived under a rock, you know, one of the questions that I saw was, why doesn't Roadhouse open earlier? So why don't they open at 11 o'clock during the week? That's a question we've been asked since the moment. So go ahead and talk about that.
Holy cow. Because, you know, we would have to get here probably at 6 a.m. or earlier to open up for 11, because all our items, all our sides are made from scratch, all our dressings are made from scratch, all the steaks are hand cut. You know, it's a 2-3 day cooking process for the ribs. I mean, you would literally have to be here, you know, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at the absolute latest to open it at 11 and have a quality product. You know, we do open on Saturdays and Sundays, you know, for lunch. But you haven't worked here, you know how much, you know, thought comes into how you make your prep sheet so that you have enough to open in the morning, and you know the stuff that goes into it, you know. So
because to prepare for Saturday, you have to kind of start getting the ribs and the steaks and all that stuff ready Wednesday, Thursday, you know, stuff like that.
Thursday at the latest.
Yeah.
You know, so you know me, you know, first off, I like my sleep. You know, God knows I need my beauty sleep. You know, but you know, that's part of it. You know, quality of life for the managers and the employees is a big part of it too.
Yes.
You know, since the majority of our employees are, you know, college students or high school students, or you know, they have other jobs or whatever. You know, to be able to have a wider employee base, you know, the dinner house concept is what we felt we needed to do. You know, and there's a handful of roadhouses in the company. I mean, there's 600 restaurants throughout the nation anymore. There's a couple of them that open for lunch 7 days a week, but I can honestly tell you that as long as I'm in the saddle, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, quality of life for my management team is really important to me.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm. That's as far as like being a manager of a restaurant, you know, you can work 70, 80 hours a week as a restaurant manager.
Guilty.
Right.
This week. Yes,
but as a manager of a roadhouse, it was always really important that you had 2 days off. It was never expected that you worked 7 days a week, ever. And as a matter of fact, it was probably discouraged, you know, for you to come in. And if it was your day off and you were here, it was like, dude, why are you here? Mm-hmm. What are you doing? What didn't you do that you could have done yesterday or the day before when you were actually working?
Yeah. The coaching.
Yes,
like you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where's your time management? How are you doing all that? So to be able to close at 10 and then 11 on the weekends, and to only have to be, you know, because even though we open at 4, you still had to be here earlier than that. But you did not work 70 or 80 hours a week as a manager at Texas Roadhouse. You worked 40, 50 maybe. Right. And that just depended, and it really kind of depended on the week you were in. If it was a Valentine's week or a Mother's Day week or a Father's Day week when it was going to be a lot busier, maybe you worked a little bit more. But so the quality of life at this restaurant is really important. I know that is very important. Plus, servers don't want to work till 2 o'clock in the morning. Servers, you know, and it's harder to find people to work during the day. Yeah. So I hope people understand there's a very good and deliberate reason why Roadhouse opens at 4.
Yeah. 3.
3 now. Oh, 3 now.
3,
See, I haven't come in at that early.
Yeah,
I was just here the other day at the other location. Charlotte was at the bar. It was after church, and I came up and I ate. And you weren't here. You were over here. Dealing with all that stuff. But I just looked around and I was like, man, this place has changed so much. Everything about it. Because when that Roadhouse opened, you had to have a membership for alcohol because Grand Prairie was it was dry. Yeah. And you could smoke everywhere. Yeah. It was disgusting. Yeah. The whole bar you could smoke in. And we had the horrible glassware that was hanging down in people's faces as they were smoking into the glassware. Right. That changed. But so Grand Prairie has changed a lot over the years as far as Roadhouse goes. But I want to talk about Renee for just a second because I love your wife so much. My baby. One of the reasons why I fell in love with her, and I hope you don't mind talking about this, but she works with what adoption agency? She's worked with them.
Edna Gladney.
Yeah. She was a big supporter of Gladney, and there was even a period of time I think y'all fostered a baby.
Yeah. Well, we were transitional care parents for like 2-3 years, something maybe longer. Well, we went through the alphabet about 3 times, you know. And what I mean by that is when we would have an adoptive child, they weren't named yet.
Oh.
Yeah, because they were born, and then they'd call us. And there's times when we're going to the hospital at 3 a.m. in the morning to go and you know, pick up a baby, you know, because we would pick them up and we would have them until, you know, the adoptive parents were able to come down to the Metroplex and pick up their baby, you know. So sometimes it was a matter of just a few hours, you know, like if they were local, and other times it was, you know, a month, you know, something like that. You're having a baby, and, you know, frankly, you know me, I mean, the shorter the better, because for me to give up you know, I mean, you just get close to, they're a baby, for crying out loud, you know, so you get close to them in a hurry, you know, and then you got to, like, we had this one, I called him Eagle Eye because he was always had one eye open. You know, he would sleep and then he'd wake up and you knew it because he had one eye open. You know, I mean, he would open them both eventually, but he's just like, okay, I'm looking around, okay, I'm bored, I'm going back to sleep, you know. And I called him Eagle Eye, and we had him for like 3 months or something like that. Oh, that was terrible, man. Renee and Chessie and I, we were all just like, oh my God, you know, crying, giving up the baby. I mean, you would have thought it was ours.
I feel like he was the one that she would bring up sometimes.
Eagle Eye?
Yeah, I feel like, because there was a baby that at one point in time that y'all did have for a while, and we were like, what's going on? Where did this baby come from?
Renee, you hit it well, you know. Yeah, no, but you know, I mean, there were probably a few of them, you know. I mean, you probably saw a few of them. I know that there was one, a little girl. I don't remember what her name was, you know, anymore, because again, went through the alphabet, you know, 3 times. We had her for a little bit, and she was just the sweetest baby. You know, people say they don't develop their personalities, just a little whatever, but you know, that's not really true.
No.
You know, if you're a parent, you know that's not true. Yep. You know, and but yeah, that was really cool time of our life, and at the same time too is, you
it was difficult for us because we would get them and then we'd have to give them up. But at the same time, too, it's very satisfying.
Yep.
And we've always been like our family. My little three people. It's me, my wife, and my daughter. We've always kind of been like that. To where because I never wanted Chessie my daughter to grow up feeling like she was entitled. Like Chessie for the longest. I mean, I can't even tell you how many. She probably the last 2 years. She's 29.
What?
She'll be 29 next month.
Oh my gosh.
It's probably only been the last 2-3 years that she's actually started buying designer something, because we wouldn't buy it for her and she didn't want it. Like her car, like her very first car. It was a Mustang. Okay, that was great, but it was used. And we never really wanted her to feel entitled. And now, we didn't want her to be. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Spoiled, I guess. And she's very grounded, very down to earth. She's like me. Like you see what I drive, 2003 Ford F-150, pickup. Yes, I had my Mercedes and all the other good stuff. Yes, I did. But that's what I drive on a regular basis because it reminds me of who I am and where I came from. Very humble roots. And I didn't want to become that person. I wanted it to remain who I was because I really believe that that's why, the person that I was and the person that I am, I think you'll say that I'm the same person.
Yeah, it's like I'm looking at the same person. I said when I came in, you haven't aged a bit, and I mean it.
I don't know about that, man. But it's the personalities. The thing is that normally, as you get older, you tend to get a little bit more distant from the younger folks and whatever. Or as you make more money, you start feeling like, okay, you have this, status or whatever. I don't want to be that guy. I don't ever want to lose in touch with my employees. I always try and stay in their vernacular. Know what their slangs are, and doing the dab and just all the stuff. And
let me ask you this, because I told you I interviewed Albert. And let me just tell you first, so the relationship between Beto's and Roadhouse has gone back a long way. And I remember Beto's had a manager named Jorge, and we loved Jorge. But I remember there was a period of time where when we had trainees, I don't even know if you did, you know that we did this, I would go, listen, I really, really need you to go next door and I need you to get 3 left-handed coffee mugs. Like right now, we need them right now. And they'd go, and then they would come back with something. And it was the crazy weird thing. And he's like, or they'd go, they said that they don't have any left-handed coffee mugs, but they do have right-handed coffee mugs. Is that okay? And people just trying to be as nice as can be knew that we were kind of, but that was just kind of what we would do. And so so that kind of talks about how we had a relationship with them. But I asked Albert, I said, because he's 46 now, I said, being in this industry, you hire people that are a lot younger than you. And so how have you been able to continue identifying with the younger generation of workers? And do you have any words of wisdom for them that are coming into the workforce?
How do I identify with the younger? And do I have any words of wisdom? How to identify with them?
Well, you kind of were talking about it a little bit.
Because I don't really know that you want to know the truth? I think I identify better with the younger folks than I do people my own age.
Really?
Yeah, because, people my own age, they're, it's like they put a shelf life on themselves.
Yeah.
Like I'm 61 and people are like, oh, so you're only going to work 4 more years? I'm like, hell no, I'm not going to work 4 more years. I'm having fun, making great money, got great friends, what?
60s aren't what they used to be.
I don't even think about that.
Right.
The things that I think about is, how can I make it bigger, stronger, faster? How can I contribute more to, people's lives? You talked about the development thing of my employees. Well, that hasn't changed at all.
Right.
I've been very blessed that, my last 3 managers, and I have 1 in waiting right now, Samantha, that they want to work in Grand Prairie. They want to work for me, and man, if that doesn't humble you, knowing that people could go into management today, but they want to work for you, so they're going to wait, that's a humbling thing. It can inflate your ego. Yeah, okay, it can. Not me, because, I'm like, man, I got to figure out how to make this, get sales up to this point to where I have to hire another manager.
Right.
So I can, move this person up,
Right.
But you know, how do I identify them? You know, I'm part of them. You know, I mean, we had our pep rally, you know, yesterday, the day before we opened. And what that was, you know, really just our party before we opened. And, you know, they put a bench here, you know, and I'm dancing with them. And, you know, yeah, I looked really weird dancing, you know. But
I am not going to tell stories. Yeah. I am not going to tell stories of you, but I will tell you that is how you've always been.
Yeah, but
a part of us.
You know, so how do I identify? You know, I mean, really, I guess the real question is how do I identify with my age group? Because I don't really think that I do. You know, I mean, I can be that guy, you know, like when I go into, you know, city meetings and crap like that. Yeah, I can, you know, I can be that guy,
right?
You know, but that's not who I am. You know, I'm the guy that likes having, you know, great time. I'm the guy that likes having fun. I'm here so much, I have to have a good time.
Right.
You know, and words of wisdom, you know.
Because you're hiring people, let's see, it's 2020, so you're hiring people that are born in 2004?
God, shut up.
I told Albert, I knew that it was time probably for me to leave, and people were born in 1990, and I felt really old at the time. But now it's 2004, so they could be hosts. So what words of wisdom do you have for new workers coming into the workforce? New workers coming into the workforce? You know, probably first and foremost, I would tell them, you know, don't worry about what the other guy's doing. You know, I mean, seriously, if he's not pulling his weight, cool. Don't let, you know, then he's not pulling his weight. You know, help him, you know, to understand how he can, you know, be empathetic to what's going on with him, you know, but don't worry about what he's doing. Worry about what you're doing. Right.
You know, because I can straight up tell you that me, you know, I don't, whatever the other managing partners are doing, I don't care.
Right.
You know, I always say we're going to do it the Grand Prairie way. You know, you ask my employees, they heard it probably 50 times on Tuesday night. You know, yeah, we're doing a GP style. You know, and that's our word. We do a GP style. Anyone on my management team, they'll tell you, well, we do a GP style. You know, because we don't buy into the hype. You know, if this store's beating us in sales, cool. Guess what? We'll beat you next week.
Right.
You know, which there's not that many stores that beat us in sales, you know, or profitability for that matter, you know, because I've got a great team, you know. But, you know, words of wisdom would be that, you know, probably the other one would be, you know, that sometimes if your boss is hard on you, it's not that he doesn't like you, he just sees potential in you.
Absolutely.
And maybe you're not living up to your potential. I mean, you and I, there were times when, you know, I love you, kid, but, you know, there were times we'd go toe-to-toe because you weren't living up to your potential.
Right.
Look at you now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how much of that came from your folks? Probably 90% of it. You know, how much of it came from me? I'd like to think the other 10.
There was a lot that I learned from you personally, and the thing that you always did was you made me feel like, yeah, there's areas of opportunity in your life, but here's what you're really good at. So it was always the good with this needs to be better. And I've thought about that my whole adult career, as far as like when I became an entrepreneur, when I became a business owner myself. What are the parts about me that need to improve? I can talk to anybody. I don't need to work on that. That's a skill set I have. Okay.
Yep.
Well, what about the other parts of me that do need work? And at the time, as a 22-year-old, you're young. You don't care about any of that. But then as I've gotten older, those words have stuck in my head. So, but I love what you had to say about don't worry about what the other guys are doing, because so much of life we think is supposed to be fair. It's fair that this person does this. It's fair that this person does that. And when you're working in a hospitality industry, and you're the only one getting ice to be refilled in the back, and you're the only one seating guests, and I've sat 5 guests, and they've only sat 2 guests in the past 30 minutes. It can be a competition. But yeah, just don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just come in and do the best that you can do. So did y'all have to hire new people to open this store?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we went from like about 131 employees to really close to 200.
Wow, really? That many more?
Yeah. Well, because we went from 21 servers to now we're at 26 servers.
Per night?
Per night.
Wow.
You know, multiply that by 2 for Saturday, you know, so 52 servers on Saturday, you know, plus folks that need days off and, you know, whatever, because again, quality of life. You know, so service department went from like 60 servers to, you know, 86 servers, you know. Granted, we lost a couple, you know, didn't make it through training or whatever, but now, you know, we're trying to bump it up some more.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, yeah, we hired a bunch of folks, you know, and we're still looking to hire more. You know, not because we're looking to get rid of anybody, you know, but because we have to anticipate, you know, like, you know me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hire, you know, today for someone that I need tomorrow. I'm going to hire today for someone that I need next month, because it takes you that long to get good at your job. A serving job, you know. I remember I was interviewing someone that worked at Pluckers, okay, and you know, I was like, because I always do at least one interview. You know that I always do at least one interview. Why? Because I believe that, you know, it is a job, but this is my family. You know, I mean, the employees are my family. They deserve to work for the best that's out there. And if they're not the best that's out there, I'm not going to hire them.
Right.
You know. So I remember, and I'm just like, you know, drilling this person, and you know, finally she said, you know, why are you being like that? It's just a serving job. You know, and I'm like, we're done. Because that, you see it as a serving job. No, it's not a serving job. You know, it's you know, because you don't know. I mean, your mom and dad can come here, and if that person has that attitude, how's she going to serve them?
Exactly.
You know, I mean, they have to look at it as, you know, we are serving the community. You know, I mean, you're not waiting tables. You're not here just to make a tip. You're here to make an impression. You know, and that's what keeps people coming back to Texas Roadhouse.
Always had very loyal regulars that would come in
all
all the time. I mean,
can we talk about the Alversons?
Oh my gosh.
Fred and Carol Thompson.
I just sold Margaret Reeves' house last year.
Are you serious?
Yes, I did.
Oh
so she was one. We called them Mom Pa Roadhouse. But I just have we just have about a minute. He said he wasn't going to be able to talk for an hour, and it's almost an hour. So I just want, since we're sitting here in the bar, you've got a really awesome Grand Prairie High School with the South and Grand Prairie High School Gopher and Warrior football players, a mural. And then you also have your TCU Horned Frogs.
Of course, the Iron Skillet Bowl.
Because you have to have that.
Had to have the Gopher Bowl because I'm all GP. You know, had to have my first responders over here because, you know, and then my military. You know, but yeah, I mean, if you look around, there's a lot of stuff that, as a matter of fact, if you look in the 200s, there's a lot of toys on the rafter.
Oh.
Seriously, the kids leave, and we put them on the rafter so that if they come back and they want their toy, I'm like, you see
I see them. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
See the Longhorns, see the baseball. Yeah, if they want their toys back, come on back. You can have your toy.
Well, I'll just say that this bar looks a lot different than when I started. I mean, from four tube TVs that were about 18 inches wide. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is that? 9 big screen TVs in here. So come on over if you haven't. It's a beautiful place. Thank you so much, Mike, for sitting down with me this morning.
No problem. It was
I love
a pleasure,
you.
Jenna. I love you too.